I'm going to start talking.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Jill,
And I'm Kathy.
and we here at Plant Life Journey, we just so love everything that's happened in our short start of the business, and we just wanted to sit down together and talk about how Plant Life Journey came to be.
Yeah.
So it's just a casual. If you wanted to know more about Plant Life Journey, if you've been to one of our retreats, or if you have not been to one of our retreats, you'll find out a little bit more
Yeah.
about us.
Yeah.
It all started way back in the day. We've known each other 30 years approximately,
Yeah.
and I'm very proud of my dad. He started a business in 1972, 1972, and that business was in business for 49 years. We almost made it to the 50-year mark, so that was pretty cool. And Kathy worked at the business. I worked at the business. We were a specialty advertising business. We had a lot of fun, and I was kind of in and out of the business. She's brilliant, which is how how yay. And we've also had some other lovely people involved too. Evelyn and Dr. Garg and Peter and just all sorts of people that have just supported us and are there for us. Cindy and her herb farm, and our mission is just really to help people be empowered by whole food plant-based. So to tell you a little bit more maybe about specifically maybe how we decided to start the business.
Yeah. So Jill and I used to eat lunch together all the time, which was really so fun that we got to do that. We worked together all day, but we would bring our lunches, and because we both were eating whole food plant-based, it was just really fun to combine and have meals together, and that kind of gave us the inspiration. Part of that, I think, was inspiration for us to say, hey, in the future it would be fun to do this together. Jill had a lot of experience running retreats in the past, and as a Food for Life educator, and
Yeah, I've been in corporate
yeah,
wellness. I
yeah,
had done.
the video that you did.
I did a DVD. I produced and wrote a DVD called "Change Your Food, Change Your Life" in 2005. I was a certified food educator, and one of the introductions of my life to learning about this, because I'm also a former food addict, binge eating nutcase with food, and I'm really so blessed to not have those same issues today, which it's really a relief. So if any of you have struggled with food addiction, you might know what I'm talking about. I was definitely obsessed with food, so it was also like a mental obsession as well as a roller coaster ride of dieting. I was at some point introduced to a woman named Dr. Antonia Demas, who wrote a curriculum called Food is Elementary. And one of the cool things is we got kids. I taught this as a volunteer in school when my sons were little, and the kids were getting involved with the food. They were measuring with the food. They were learning about music from different cultures and different foods from around the world. And she really said you can't just put healthy food in a vending machine and expect people to choose that. But if people understand where food comes from more, and they get to work with food and play with food and make art with food, or it's just so much more accessible and so much more fun. And so that was a really great one of the great things that I got to do.
Yeah. And then Jill taught a corporate wellness seminar at our company. We were so blessed to be able to have that happen when her dad was still running that business, that he invited her to come and had her run these corporate wellness lunches, and it gave the employees opportunity to learn more about how the food really impacts your body. And that was inspiration for me to make the change. I just didn't do it right away. Learning the way that food impacts your health, the disease prevention, disease reversal, all of that was super exciting and interesting to me, and I loved it. And I was really early on in motherhood at that point. In fact, I was pregnant with my first son at that time, and maybe a year later, I was having a lot of digestive issues, stomach pains, things like that. And a lot of that was stress induced, but the food that I was eating was terrible. I was really focused on the health of my child, making sure what food is going into him, and then I was just eating whatever I could grab in between working full time and caring for him in the evening and doing the housework and everything else. So a few years later, I had a second child, my second son, and still having a lot of health issues. So having heard all of that information when Jill ran that retreat really started to kind of register with me. But it wasn't until even a few years after that due to an injury, I really started thinking about how food and how your body is just so precious, and food is such an important part of how you maintain your physical health and mental health. And so that's where it started clicking for me. So there's a lot, I think, to what you said, that when you understand the food better, putting it in the vending machine isn't enough. It's understanding how it affects your body physically, mentally. Maybe that helps you make the change better.
And spiritually.
And spiritually.
I really believe that information is just not enough, because if we all knew you need to take less calories in than what you're expending, or however, like, it should be a simple thing, like, don't eat so much food and you won't, for example, weight loss. I was always struggling with my weight, and I couldn't control what I was eating. I mean, I ate to pain. I ate, I ate food out of the garbage can. Like, I'd throw it away and then I'm like, oh, no, I think I better not. Or, I hid food. I did some really crazy things with food. So I really felt like my addiction to food was kind of like a wild animal. I really didn't care if it killed me. So there's just a lot to this whole thing. I mean, Kathy was really, really impressed by the science and the nutrition and the information about fiber. But tell everybody too a little bit more about how you had that time. And a lot of times we just don't have time in our lives.
Right.
With your eye injury, you were forced to.
It wasn't just the time itself. It was the time with no distraction. We fill our lives with distraction. I don't know if the right term is escapism, where we're constantly watching TV, or maybe there's things that we're not dealing with properly, and we're choosing other ways to distract ourselves with activities that aren't as healthy, like sitting in front of the TV, or working so much that you're not taking care of yourself, skipping lunches. There's a lot of different ways people, I think, do this. But so when I had my injury, it was a head trauma. It impacted my eye, and I was really not able to do anything but keep my head down for weeks, because the repair that they did required you to keep your face down, even at night, 24 hours a day, face down. And so the pain didn't allow me to watch TV, and nor being able to, I couldn't lift my head. The kids, constantly being distracted with taking care of the kids. I had to rely on other people that maybe in the past I always felt I had to do it myself, but now I had to surrender some of that to other people who were willing to do it in the past, but I just wasn't willing to ask for that help or accept that help. So sometimes just being and not being able to do anything else, and eliminating all those distractions, it starts to let you reflect inwardly. And that's where really spiritually that impacted me a lot. I had a lot of spiritual growth and transformation during that time, and started to consider, what does God really want for you, for me, for my body? As a parent, as a loving parent, you take care of your kids, you prioritize, you want them to be healthy, because you know that if they're healthy, they're happy, right? You want them to have full lives. Well, as God, your Father, sees you as his child, he wants you to be healthy so that you can live more fully and experience the goodness that's intended for you in your life. So those are some of the realizations that I was having at that time, where distraction had been eliminated. I just felt really connected to God, and could just feel those whispers and that guidance that, your body is really precious. And if you're not taking care of it, you're not going to be able to live as fully, or as happily, or, as healthily. So we know these things. We know that God made us a certain way to be able to fight disease and heal and such. But if we're not taking care of our immune system, and you can't avoid an accident happens. My injury was a freak accident, and you can't control that, but you can choose what you put in your mouth. You can sometimes, most times you can, right? Like, you can choose where you go to eat. You can choose whether you go eat somewhere. You can choose what you purchase at the grocery store, for the most part. Some people live in areas where they're food deserts. They don't have access to it. But, if you do have access to it, why not eat it? Like, we're privileged in that way when we have access to healthy food. And if we're not choosing to eat it, we're just missing out on a lot of that.
A lot of what you're saying would have sounded good to me years and years ago, but the struggle was real. And they call it cunning, baffling, and powerful. If you're into, like, for me, food was something I really felt like I couldn't control very well. However, I did make this decision one day after reading these books, and these books that I got to through a person were not about dieting for the first time. Like, this was kind of a critical juncture in my life where I was expecting this older person with high energy and, a little older than me, and, trim, and, she introduced me to the health, the environment, the impact of, just the standard American diet in a different way. And so I just kind of forgot what I was going to say. But anyway, it wasn't about dieting, and it was about health. So, I made that decision. I'm like, okay, very scary. I'm going to call myself a vegetarian now. And I'd gone to, like, turkey, and for my family, I had little kids at the time. So I was able to do that, like, one day at a time. I had one vegetarian friend, and she was really helpful. And little by little, day by day, I build up a little bit of, like, ooh, I can do this, I can do this. But I also noticed along the way in my journey that my free will has a lot to do with, or my idea that I'm going to do it alone or by myself has a lot to do with this. For me, I could say, I need my higher power in this moment to help me. And I can also reject that. I had rejected that idea at times when I wanted to eat that thing more than I wanted the help, because I started this process of asking for help, and the help would come. Not like immediately always, and I'd have to look for the signs. But when the signs came, or the person came into my life, I would say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I had to start looking at my part of things and my part of resentments and things like that. I mean, I was on a journey to get out of this, because I got sick of it. I got sick of, tired of being so obsessed that I couldn't function in my life. I wasn't there for my family. I mean, I feel really bad for my kids at the time, because I just was, kind of lights on, nobody home a little bit, as far as just like, what's my next meal? How am I going to get that next thing? Or you'd go to events where they'd have food, and I would be really focused on, like, oh, how can I eat that thing and not make it look like I'm eating? You just would get into it and couldn't stop. I couldn't stop sometimes. Planning binges for like an hour at a time. It's nuts how I abused my body then. And it's amazing how this journey, it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Never like, all of a sudden it was just, it takes persistence, and it takes other people. We can't do this alone.
Right.
I learn from you every day. You learn from me. And it's also easier to do this in a community, which is why Plant Life Journey is important to us. We're offering people like this nice, safe environment to come to and try the food, and be in a safe community where they can share, if they want to, you know, people have shared with us, and we've, but you know, not it varies depending on the group, and of course.
Yeah, there's a lot of different reasons that people have come and chosen to stay with us for the week of immersive cooking and wellness. It's a great way to refocus and learn tools that you can really just take home and use. Sometimes people think if you choose to eat more plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, any of those things, the general population, well, you'll often hear from them, well, what are you going to eat? Or, well, you can't eat that, can you? Or you can't eat that. And it's really freeing, really, when you understand the why and you worry less about diet, meaning like weight loss. You may need to lose weight. You may have a disease. You may have a disease that's due to the weight. But when you stop focusing on the losing weight part and what you can do, you can eat healthy foods. There's so many foods to choose from. So people from outside, looking in at what we do will often have this reaction like, oh, but you can't eat this and you can't eat that.
We can eat whatever we want.
We can eat it. We choose not to. And I don't feel restricted.
I don't either.
We eat so much food. It's crazy how much food we eat. And we nevertheless maintain a healthy body weight. Mm-hmm. When I first switched to this, I was super strict. Like, I ate the same thing every day, and just to make sure that I didn't diverge off of it. So it was kind of restrictive for me at first because I chose to do it that way. But it was really freeing in the long term because I don't have the health issues that I had when I was eating that way.
You definitely start seeing results quickly.
Really
I
fast.
did lose 30 pounds really fast.
I lost a lot of weight really fast too. 25 pounds maybe. Skin was better, hair was better, nails are better,
breathing better.
The stomach problems that I had, the stomach problems that a doctor told me I would need to be on medicine to potentially help, we think it might be Crohn's disease, so here's some medication for that. And well, how long do I have to take that, doctor? Yeah. I love doctors, but some doctors aren't fully educated to the effects of the diet and lifestyle on those health problems. So it was really that gastroenterologist that told me that after, thankfully, I had been to Jill's seminar several years later. This happens, and I said, well, can I just change my diet? Won't that improve? Oh, no, just you have to take this medication. Well, how long would I take the medication? For the rest of your life. Well, that was not an option for me. I just knew too much at that point that I was going to try something different. And he advised me to take Metamucil every day as well because you need more fiber. Well, you do need more fiber. He was absolutely right. But when I said, can't I do it by just changing my food and eat more fiber? And he said, oh, you won't get enough that way.
Ha ha ha.
Right. So the way I had been eating, I wasn't getting enough that way because eating cookies when you pass by them at work.
Eggs have no fiber.
There's no fiber in eggs or meat.
No animal products
so
have
all
any
the
fiber.
meat and cheese and eggs, no fiber.
Zero.
So if you change to replace those foods, we don't have to look at it as like restriction and elimination, but just replace them with better options. More fiber. Plants have fiber. So, rice, whole grain pasta, any veggies, fruits, you're getting fiber. So I replaced my food. I didn't eliminate things. I replaced them. And in doing so, I gained so much in health.
We just have a bounty of glorious, antioxidant-rich, colorful, beautiful things that we eat and put together in miraculous ways that feel so nourishing, and they are nourishing.
Right.
And so our retreats are just our shared passion and also our friendship and history that we get to continue to work together after almost a 50-year business, we are so blessed to step into this new business and keep a tradition going of
Right.
of just trying to do good in the world.
Right. And sharing this with other people. When we did this years ago, there was not that kind of support and information out there, what you could find on the internet. It was, for me, it was 2002 was when Jill taught the class, and it wasn't until 2008 that I fully changed my diet and experienced really incredible change to my body and my energy with 2 little kids and working full time. Like the energy was like, woo, So we just love to share this with other people. And if you're even remotely interested in how this could better impact your health, we would love to share what we know, walk you through it in an immersive experience so that you can take those tools home and hopefully experience the same results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey,
Yeah.
and we hope you make it a plant life journey.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Progress,
not perfection.
Yeah.
Well, good talk. Maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, good talk.